Welcome back to Nia Handcrafted. I'm a candle and soap maker in Portland, Oregon, and today we're going to be making some soap. I have run out of my Star Anise clay soap, but we are renaming it to All in La Familia, which is a nod to the women in my family who love both the smell of star anise and fennel, which are both components of this soap. It is not anywhere near the top of the list on this soap. I probably sell a bar at every show that I do, but it's important for me to keep it just because, like I say, it's just a strong positive emotional association with the women in my family and my in-laws as well. And just because so many people take the soap and they smell it and you just see that they say, oh, this smells like blank, blank, blank. And you know that feeling as a soap and candle maker when you see like a customer's limbic system activate. That is also rewarding for you, like, oh, I nailed it, I got something right. So I love this soap. There's no artificial colorants. It's bentonite clay, it is activated charcoal, it is titanium dioxide. So those are the only three colors in the pot swirl. And I did try something different, which may or may not have gone well, but you'll see at the end. It's really important when you're working with any fragrance or essential oils to know what percentage of that fragrance or essential oil is skin safe. And in the case of star anise and fennel essential oils, it's between 2 and 3%. For context, soap makers usually is about 5% fragrance oil. In a category, what's considered category 9, which is a cold process soap, so something that goes on your body and rinses off. Obviously, this would be something different. It was going to be like in a body butter or something staying on your skin. So just because something is all natural does not mean that you can just use it and just dump the whole bottle in there and use that as your fragrance. I will pop the link below so that you can go to EOCalc and then check that out and make sure that your essential oil blends are safe. And they also have a bunch of essential oil blends that have already been submitted. So if you're new to blending essential oils or working with them, then that's something that you can do. When people love the scent, they love it. Like when I smell this, I am grounded, I am transported to just a lovely place, like maybe sneaking candy from my mom who had like the real black licorice. I'm talking about like the chewy stuff, not the black Twizzlers or anything like that. Or, the fennel from, after you go to eat Indian food at a restaurant and they have the fennel in the little seed blend that had the candy in it. It tastes like that. So like a sugared fennel. So I love this soap. If you're a maker, let me know what soap or candle that you make that maybe not necessarily is your bestseller, but that you won't get rid of because you just have that loyal fan base or that cult classic that you just love. Which one is yours? This is ours. If you are new here, all of my soaps and candles are vegetarian and vegan, using much as we can plant-based pigments and avoid harmful chemicals. If we're using any artificial fragrances, we're very picky about no phthalates, no carcinogens, no reproductive toxins. So kind of picky, but we also make really pretty stuff. We use star anise, fennel, cedarwood, and black pepper. Hi, it's Editing Nia. I popped on just to mention we are not going to do a discussion right now on lye safety and safe soaping. But if you are new to soaping, there are some considerations. You will see us wearing gloves. You won't see that we're wearing goggles to protect our eye. Lye can permanently damage your eye. So if you're getting into soaping, there are some great soap making videos out there with royalty soaps, for example, Ellen Ruth soaps, as well as Ellie's Everyday. Those are great channels. I will link them below. However, I know people have teachers that they prefer, so if you want me to do a safe handling procedures video, let me know. There's a lot out there, but I'm happy to share my knowledge about it. Just remember to be safe. Okay, let's go make some soap. I learned this method on Ellie's Everyday Soap Making, which is where you use about 2/3 of your lye water solution as ice cubes, and those are distilled water frozen ice cubes that I just always have at the ready in my freezer. And then some fresh distilled water to top it off to get the full amount of water that I need before I add the lye to that solution, always the lye to that solution. And that just keeps the fumes down to a minimum, as well as keeping the solution a little bit cooler. And that way I can get to soaping a little bit faster. So kudos to her for giving me that tip. Here's another tip for you soap makers. Well, don't use a broken whisk. I'm just one of those people that can't throw things away until they're just like really broken. But I'm adding my sodium hydroxide and then slowly whisking it in. I used to use a spoon, but I saw Uncle John from Uncle John's Soap channel using a whisk, and he was saying that it was just to make sure that he got all the clumps out. And I did notice after switching to this method that my lye solution was a lot clearer, that well, if I went to strain it, I got like no lint. So thank you, Uncle John. Please check over to his channel. I really like his no-nonsense kind of way of talking about soaping. It's quite entertaining to watch. But at any rate, I'm just going to get this all mixed in and let it start to cool. And to my lye water solution, I'm going to add some sodium lactate. I added like a teaspoon-ish per pound of oils into that solution. And that's going to get cooling, so I'm going to start prepping my colorants. So bentonite clay, as I said, it is a harder clay to work with. You can see it's really clumpy in here, and I have had my soap kind of go really to a thicker emulsification when I've used that, so I wanted to get that enough time to really mix in. Not the case with titanium dioxide. This is a water-soluble one, so I'm still using distilled water with it, just so that I can ensure that I'm not going to get any dreaded orange spots. If you're a soap maker, you just have to keep a lot of distilled water around. And there's all the prep steps. You know, my mother-in-law was here staying with us recently, and she made some soap with us, and she was just saying like, oh my gosh, there's so many steps that you have to do before you actually make the soap. It's like an hour of prep and then 5 minutes to make the soap, which is fair and, you know, pretty much accurate. You know, just getting the lye water ready and all of the careful measurements. You'll notice here that I've switched to a gram scale, and that is because with a narrower skin safe window with the essential oils, I wanted to make sure that I was using a more sensitive scale, and just to, you know, make sure I could get as many grams in there to get that good star anise smell, and then the fennel within a safe usage rate. And again, you can plug your usage rates into EO Calc, and again, I'll link it below, but that way you can check and make sure that you're in a safe window. Now, I really think that you could leave the soap with just the 2 to 3% of the star anise and fennel. However, I really like this blend with a little bit of black pepper and cedar. Black pepper to me is one of the more underrated essential oils. I mean, it does not compare to pink pepper. I love the pink pepper essential oil, but try it out. It's very grounding and it has a higher safe usage rate. So I'm going to start with adding all of my harder butters, harder oils like my cocoa butter, shea butter, and coconut oil. And I'm going to get those melting. And after I get those in the microwave, then I can start measuring out the other ones that are going to be at room temperature. And that will hopefully bring us to where I like to soap, which is kind of around 95-ish degrees. That I found that's worked pretty well for my soap. One of the reasons that I say that this is not necessarily a beginner's recipe is that there is a total of 6 different oils and butters in here, and there are way simpler recipes to start with. And even now, I just recently was talking to a friend of mine who also makes soap, and she said, God, you're using just so many oils. Why don't you simplify your life? And at this point, you know, the very first recipe that I made soap with years ago had several oils in it, plus aloe and sugar. And I think that I wasn't intimidated by it. Like, I never started with melt and pour. I just started with cold process and developed a recipe that I love so much that I haven't wanted to change it. And I have made like 100% coconut oil soap. Pretty soon I'm going to be making some Castile soap. But I just love the way that this performs, and I'm just not really motivated to change it, even though I would love to simplify my life, especially this measuring out the harder oils and butters take quite a bit of time. But I just melt them down at 30-second bursts while I start to do the room temperature oils. And I'm going to start with my olive oil. This olive oil is the mix of the refined and extra virgin from Costco. Pretty much all of my oils I get from a local soaping company called Shea and Company. I occasionally will pick up some from Essential Wholesale Labs, which is also local to Portland. And Wholesale Supplies Plus is another great place to look. Often they have a sale, but I really try to save on the shipping when I can. This is organic castor oil. It's one of those oils that I get organic because the cost when you're buying it by the gallon is not that much more expensive to get it organic. And I use safflower oil just because I wanted to use some US grown oils. I could totally replace that with olive oil, for example, to simplify my life. But I like making a little bit less of an environmental dent because we are not growing much olive oil here in Oregon. So since these are all measured out, I'm going to just check on my oils and butters that are in the microwave. And I like to, once it starts to get a little bit melty, just take it out, give it a little bit of a mix to, eliminate any hot pockets. And I like to keep the temperature cool. You'll see some soapers that just melt this all the way down at once in the microwave, or maybe we'll use a double boiler. I used to do it like that, but now I just do it real slow. I know that soaping is a higher pH and higher temperature, so likely a lot of the benefits that we have are potentially lost, but I'm going to give the soap the best chance that I can to be good for our skin. And there is the kaolin clay going in. That is a few tablespoons per loaf. Each of those are the 42-ounce loaves, so 1,000 grams times 2,000 gram batch of soap for the 2 loaves. I really love kaolin clay in the bar. It makes it a little bit creamier. It doesn't, you don't have as heavy bubbles when you use this, but some say it also helps to anchor the essential oils, and that's great because sometimes the scent fades. So now after a couple more bursts, since these oils are ready to go, then I'm just going to combine it with the room temperature oils. And most of the time, then when I've done that, by the time I've done all the other prep, the lye water is ready to go. And the combo of these 2 oils makes them to be at a similar enough temperature. I know that a lot of people say they have to be within 10 degrees of each other. I'm not like super strict about that, but I do try to make sure that I'm not pouring like 120 degree lye water into like 75 degree oil. So I'm going to check the temperature of my lye water, which was 99.7, and I believe my oils were at like 92. So we were ready to go. And at that point I realized I had not done my activated charcoal. And so I'm just adding that with some olive oil. Sometimes I just add it right into the soap. But as I was doing 3 different colors, I wanted a little bit more control. And also that is going to help me later to get the gray that I want, because bentonite clay, you're going to need a lot of it to get it gray. And then this particular bentonite clay is a little bit brownish, and I definitely wanted to stick with the black, white, and gray theme. I just really like the way that color is. Yes, you do hear a kitten in the background who's meowing for no discernible need, but she is turning out to be quite talkative. So here is the activated charcoal. It's really smooth. Just be careful. I know some people say to wear a mask because it's a very thin powder. So keep that in mind. Now the lye water solution looked really clear, but I'm in the habit of straining it. But look at how clear that is. There's no lint that came out of that. And so I was, again, like I'm really just happy about that suggestion from Uncle John's. And I just like to kind of give that a little bit of a stir real quick before I get in there with my mixer. I do not have a blender that I super love. So if you're a soap maker and you have an immersion blender that you like, I kind of have just bought whatever I happen to see if I was out at Target or Fred Meyer's here, or if something was on sale on Amazon, then I would pick it up. So let me know what you like. I'm just what I'm calling burping the blender, getting the air bubbles out because you do not want air. It is not your friend. Causes kind of weird can cause little pockets or what looks like little spots that you're not sure when you're looking at it. Like, is that a stearic acid spot? Is that lye? It just gives you anxiety that you don't really need. There are so many other things we have to think about that a nice smooth pour really helps us out. So I had just recently made a batch of soap that was a failed emulsification. I think it was a false trace, so I'm being super careful. So because I have 3 different colors, I want to make sure that everything is really well blended, but that still gives me some working time. Okay, I know the angle isn't perfect here. I'm still working on my videographer skills, but I am pouring off the 3 different colors here. That's the titanium dioxide going in. I have seen other soapers kind of mix a little bit of soap and then mix it back in, and I want to try that next time because I have seen some makers get some brighter whites. Although for this batch, it didn't matter as much to me. And I'm not doing the essential oils yet. I'm just doing the colorants because I could not remember. It's been a couple months since I've made it, so I couldn't remember how the essential oil blend behaved. And sometimes things like activated charcoal and titanium dioxide, and as I've said, the bentonite clay can make things a little bit thicker. So I wanted to give myself as much working time as possible. It's not terrible. I mean, the last time I made this soap, it did get a little bit thicker than I wanted, particularly the bentonite clay, and I had really thick swirls, and that is how the soap has been for years, so people are used to it. But I really love the very, very fluid in the pot swirls that you see by like Ophelia's Soapery, for example, and so I wanted to go a little bit more for that. So it's kind of like it looks a little bit like a cross between a in the pot swirl and a drop swirl with how I do this method. But so here I am adding in the anise and fennel, cedar wood, and black pepper, and they are behaving very, very well. I was really surprised by how much working time I had, and that was when I had the spur of the moment kind of inspiration that said, you know, what would be a really good idea is to do an ombre for the first time ever, because I have this nice fluid soap. I don't recommend this, but as you might know, I have kind of or definitely an ADHD brain, and when I get inspired to do something, that kind of can be the only thing that I'm really focused on. And so that is what I intended to do. So I said, okay, I'm going to do the first one as it is, just the regular in the pot swirl, and then I'll do an ombre for the second loaf. And here's the bentonite clay going in, and you know, and then I'm maybe questioning my decision until I see that it's actually behaving pretty well. And as I said before, the bentonite clay is a little bit on the browner side. So I get that in there, and then I use a little bit of activated charcoal to help out to get it gray. You really don't need a lot of activated charcoal. That was not even, I mean, I guess that was probably a 1/4 teaspoon to get this color. I do have a milk frother that I have used for mixing colorants and fragrances into smaller batches, but I really enjoy the process of mixing it by hand. You do need to make sure that you're giving it enough love, that it is all the way mixed, that you're not seeing any separation or ricing or anything like that. Here I'm doing my kind of in the pot swirl. And for an in the pot swirl, you're just kind of dumping the different colors in different parts of the pot. Some people like to give it a little bit of a mix, but for this one, I did not. I just kind of let it go where it falls. And I wanted to use a little bit more black and gray. And so what I did was I just used a very, very tiny bit of white in the next batch, and I needed more white for the ombre anyway, so it worked out. As you can see, it's still really fluid, so that's another reason why I didn't really get anything in there. Sometimes you can just take your spatula and just wave it through once, like just make a little bit of an X. That way you can make sure that your colors get a nice swirl. This is just fluid enough so that the colors aren't too muddy, they're not mixing together. You have 3 defined colors, which is important to me in this bar. And here is where I'm playing with the top. I ideally would have liked to wait for a little bit longer for this to set up a bit before I poured things on the top. You're going to see some of those, like that white just there. it sank into the soap, and so it's not on the top. So I'm trying to be as careful as I can, but if I had waited, 10 more minutes, then I could have had a little bit more with what I wanted with the swirl on the top. And I did leave it to swirl and before I got into the ombre. I'm not going to torture you with this view for longer because when I started doing this, I don't know if this happens to you, I just started sweating like crazy, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. How do I do this? The kids are coming in to talk to me, and I just turned off the camera so I could do it in peace. And so that's kind of what I ended up with, as well as a little view of the mess that is made when you're soap making. So if you're about to get into it, just beware. For this swirl, I don't really have a rhyme or reason. I guess this is kind of my standard swirl when I do like like a take on a chevron swirl. I really like it to be wispy, kind of smoky, and I'm just trying to really bring a little bit of every color to each part of the bar. There's a little white, there's a little black, there's a little gray. It's just nice to play with it, and it's really hard to know when to stop. I should probably do something like set a timer, but then honestly I wouldn't pay any attention anyway. I spritz liberally with rubbing alcohol. I got those spray bottles from the Dollar Tree. I think when I started soaping, I bought like 5 or 6, and they're still going. I always pop my soap in shoe boxes, so I'm going to get these into a warm oven and see you tomorrow. This is loaf number 1. The swirling job that I did with an in the pot swirl below, I needed to wait closer to 30 hours because it's a little bit softer than I wanted to, but I think it's okay to get out of the mold now, so let's cut it. One test you can do to see if it's ready is just to peel away from the mold. And you have to be careful because sometimes there can be like a little bit of like, I don't know how to describe it, like a haze, or that it's really kind of tacky on the side. And I can feel that this is going to be okay to cut. My preference would be to wait till morning, but I need these molds, so let's get them cut. I might not shave the sides. Oh, that's nice. Tonight I'll wait till they firm up a bit. But I like to look at the sides. Looks like an agate there. Sometimes you get really cool swirls with it in the pot. Line it up. So you can get like some kind of neat patterns in here. I'm really happy with how they look. They're pretty similar to the last time. It's almost a shame as I'm like looking at the agate. It's a very, very pretty pour on the side, and you're thinking like, how did I do that? How did I get that, and how can I get it again? But that's the beauty of doing like an in the pot swirl or a drop swirl with your soaps. You don't know what you're gonna end up with. Look at those. Almost looks like kind of a bear. Okay. The other one is the ombre. I'm really nervous about that. I'm gonna move these off to the side. I don't know if you can see, this is a dangerous place to put your soap because if I forget and I open it, I have totally smashed the top of some soap. So make that a habit to just move everything before you open it up because I need to clean these wires before I cut the other one. So let's get that done. Okay, now safe to open it up. You can use a paper towel. I like to use a microfiber cloth to clean each individual wire. And of course, any kind of smudge on the plastic part. If you have botanicals, they can sometimes cause a lot of debris. Okay, I'm really nervous about this one. Whew. I mean, the top looks okay, but we'll see. There's some ash, like soda ash, so I just can't tell what happened with this. Ooh, maybe. Oh yeah, it is a little soft. The edge got a little bit nicked, but better the edge than any other spot. Okay, Bismillah. Ladies and gentlemen, my first ombre. Look, I'm really happy about this. You know, I might have said before that bentonite clay is probably not something I would recommend if you wanted to do something with swirls where you needed a lot of time. And maybe it was my youngest, her touch with mixing the clays, but we'll look at this one. The other side is a little bit better. Makes me wonder if I could have done a little bit better if I had one of those special slant ones. But yeah, not bad, not bad. I think I am gonna continue to try it out. Okay. Bringing this forward. Make a pretty bar and then smash the top. It has happened. As you can probably imagine, because it's soft, I'm not going to shave it. I'm going to be very careful about how I place it. I'm not going to stamp it. We're going to give it a little bit of time. But yeah, that's our very first ombre. Thank you so much for coming along as we made this all in La Famiglia soap. Here again is the ombre. I still am really impressed that it came out that way with bentonite clay. We're going to be trying that technique for some of our spring soaps coming up, so be on the lookout for that. We have some more complex designs coming up with that soap. So again, if it would be helpful to go over life safety steps or anything with soap making that you want to see, please drop it in the comments below. And if you're a maker, like I said, drop me your cult classic, one that you won't get rid of. Thank you so much for your support. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for sticking around, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye.